So today I'm going to talk about quasi recovery and exercise and recovery. Quasi recovery is when you're in a kind of semi-recovery effort state. You could be exercising but meeting the minimums. You could be not exercising but not eating the minimums, or you could be not meeting the minimums and exercising as well. It means that you're kind of like you're trying to recover. You've kind of made a step forward, but you're not actually fully recovering as of yet. I was in a semi-recovery state for about 6 months when I first started to recover. I was eating clean or semi-clean as much as possible. It became kind of this really obsessive habit to eat really healthy and also to work out a lot, and I kind of had exercise addiction. I'd had it all the way through anorexia, but it got even worse when I actually started recovering, because I started eating the right amount, and I was eating what I perceived to be, a lot, and I was eating over minimums as well, quite frequently, but I was still restricting what I was eating, so it would still be healthy stuff, healthy, and I still had lots of fear foods that I wouldn't let myself near. Also, I was still exercising a lot more than I had been actually when I was restricting even more. I worked out every single day. I kind of changed my obsession from getting really thin to actually getting really fit and healthy, which obviously is a step forward because my body's far more nourished, but of course that doesn't really change up the mental state too much. Obviously cognitive abilities improved, and I was able to concentrate more, and I didn't have brain fog and all this kind of stuff. All the physical stuff was improving as far as I was aware, but obviously I was still completely obsessed, and that's not a great mentality to be in. Also, I was not really aware that there are a huge amount of repairs to be done inside the body that you can't actually see, and if you're in a quasi-recovery state, then those repairs will not be being made and you won't be so aware of it. It's not a good thing to be in. It's a step forward, and some people find it an invaluable step forward. I don't think I would have gone into full recovery without being in that period beforehand. Some people get locked into that and they don't move forward, and they either stay there or relapse. So for some people it's easier just to go from your completely restrictive state straight into full recovery, and that works for a lot of people. As I said, quasi-recovery for me was a step forward, but it wasn't the end of my journey, which I did perceive it to be at the beginning. I thought I was doing recovery the right way, but of course I wasn't, and I learned that, and then I changed stuff up, which was difficult, and it showed how far I had to go, because when I realised that actually what I was doing wasn't a full recovery effort, and tried to change it, it was really, really hard. I gave up exercise for the first time only because my partner and I broke up, and I was so distraught that I couldn't do anything at all, and I was in bed all the time just sobbing, and I wasn't eating anything, not because of my eating disorder, just because I was so traumatized. I didn't have an appetite or anything. But after a few weeks of not exercising because I just couldn't cope with anything at all, the anxiety about exercising actually decreased a lot, and then I didn't exercise after then. I mean, I do quite a lot of walking just because I can't afford public transport and I don't have a car. But there was no formal exercise going on. I did have a relapse with exercise. I started to try and reintroduce it into my life again, thinking that I could kind of control it. Obviously, I wasn't ready for that at all, because it very quickly and very sneakily crept straight back in, and suddenly I was doing it every day, and then I was increasing the time I was doing it every day. It does just come straight back in as soon as you open that door, and then it took me a while to be able to stop again, and again I had to go cold turkey and just make that decision that I wasn't doing it again. And the second time it was more of a conscious decision, because the first time was obviously because of the breakup. It wasn't actually that I made the choice to stop the exercise at first. The second time I did, and it was a lot harder. But the reason I did was because I actually found that I was suddenly, even though I'd been exercising for so long and so hard all the time, suddenly this just wave of fatigue hit me, and I was sleeping during the day. I'd wake up, a couple of hours later I'd need to go for a nap again, and then get up and then be tired again, and I was just exhausted all the time. And I tried to convince myself that it was everything else, but it wasn't. And I thought, well, you know what, I'll give myself a 2-week trial period, quit exercise, see what happens, see if I feel better. And surprise, surprise, my energy came back again. And after the 2-week trial period, I didn't really want to exercise again. I mean, when you stop, you make that decision to stop. After a while, you just really don't want to do it again. And yeah, there is anxiety and stuff, but it decreases so quickly when you don't exercise. And up until now, I haven't really done any. Sometimes I do go swimming or do the odd bit of formal exercise, but I am aware that there is a little part of me that is doing it because it's slightly compulsive. But the thing is, I mark on my calendar every single time I do formal exercise to keep it under control, so I know exactly how much I'm doing. And I probably do it once to twice a week and for 30 minutes at a time. That is because I've been in recovery for 16, 17 months now, so I do feel that my body is repaired. I mean, I can never be certain of that. I do feel that it is. So I do think physical exercise is fine for me physically. I'm not sure mentally, which is why I keep track of it. And it's also why I hold myself accountable to somebody. For example, I told one of my friends the other day that I was going swimming for 30 minutes, and he kept track of the time and made sure that, you know, I was actually going for the time that I said I would. And it does help to tell someone that you're going to do it, because obviously you feel like you let them down as well as yourself. And I found that actually much easier as soon as I was in the pool and I was doing my lengths. Usually I'd get a voice that would say, no, just do 10 more minutes longer and 10 more minutes longer, and over again every 10 minutes until I'd been doing for double the time I said. But because I told him, I didn't really have those urges to do any more, just because I knew that there was no way I was going to. So holding yourself accountable is really good, but that's after a huge amount of time. And actually I probably shouldn't be exercising at all, because I don't consider myself fully recovered, and you should not be exercising until you're fully recovered, but I'm not perfect. So that's my experience with Quasi. Now you're probably thinking, why can I not exercise in recovery? Well, you wouldn't exercise on a broken leg, so why would you exercise on a broken body? Restriction does huge amounts of damages outside and inside, and I'm sure that you're very aware of that. So, you know, it makes sense. Why would you do physical exertion when your body is really damaged? The best way to identify exercisers who also had an eating disorder, or have an eating disorder, is if you agree with the following statements: that you are annoyed if exercise is interrupted, That definitely happened for me a lot. Others feel you exercise a lot. Feeling bad if unable to exercise a certain amount, or feeling that you have or have had problems with exercise. Now, reading that list, that was me. If anyone interrupted me, or if my YouTube workout videos froze, I would literally just have a complete breakdown. It was ridiculous. I would be really angry, really frustrated. I might fall in a heap on the floor and cry. That's when you know you definitely have a problem, because exercise shouldn't make you feel that way if you're just pausing it for a moment. Yes, and if you start feeling anxious that you cannot exercise, then you know there's a problem too. I mean, even people who don't have eating disorders have that problem. I was speaking to a friend recently who had always said to me that she loved going to the gym because it made her feel great. But then she said she stopped going for a couple of weeks and she suddenly felt anxious about not doing it. Kudos to her, because she then realised, I shouldn't be feeling like this. I should stop going, instead of letting that anxiety drive her to go. She did the best thing and responded to her instincts that she knew that was a problem. And, you know, if you're feeling anxious that you can't get your exercise in for today, there is a problem, especially if you are sacrificing social engagements or time to yourself or time with other people, you know, anything fun and enjoyable that you are sacrificing it for exercise. That is just a massive warning sign. A lot of people will say, oh no, exercise is fine, I'm not doing it because of my eating disorder, I'm not doing it to control my weight, it makes me feel good, you know, exercise, it releases endorphins. Well, actually, high levels of depression are more likely with both anorexia and bulimia patients who exercise excessively, and levels of anxiety were particularly high, but only with excessively exercising anorexics. Now that just shows that actually it's not benefiting you at all. I'm just going to read this. A community-based study in Australia had the following outcome: exercising to improve appearance or body tone and feelings of guilt following the postponement of exercise were the exercise variables most strongly associated with elevated levels of eating disorders, psychopathology, and in turn reduced quality of life. So actually as well, exercise can cause restrictive eating disorders as well. Well, they can play a triggering role for the onset of them, which is important actually, because a lot of people say that they were active before their eating disorder, and use this as an excuse to kind of say that they can continue exercising, and that they assume that their exercise habits are not linked to the restrictive behaviours in their case, but that's just an excuse that the eating disorder will kind of give for you. So a lot of people with restrictive eating disorders try to convince themselves that they experience the benefits of exercise that a non-eating disordered person would, but that's just not so. Exertion actually just helps to feed the disorder and make it worse. So the dangers of exercising in recovery, obviously the heart gets damaged through restriction, so you've got a risk right there of, you know, anything. If your heart's weak, then it could be life-threatening if you're exercising on a very damaged heart. Being of average or above average weight does not automatically mean that the risks to your heart have resolved, especially if you're engaging in cycles of restriction, reactive eating, subclinical starvation and or purging, laxative and or diuretic use. When you restrict, the body makes up the energy deficit by getting energy from not just your fat organ, but also muscles, bones, and all other organs and stuff. So it's not just your heart that's being eaten into, it's everything else. just going to read this from your Utopia. It says, in addition to the heart muscle being destroyed in the process of the body catabolizing energy from all cells throughout the body, it is also possible that the volume of blood in your body is reduced such that the heart muscle has to work hard to get the blood moving through the circulatory system. So, that's heart damage again. If you don't have periods as a result of restriction, then exercise can also increase the risk of fracture. If you're on the pill, just remember that you're not actually experiencing a menstrual cycle in a biological sense. So you could be underweight for your body and not at your body's optimal weight set point without realising. And therefore you can develop osteoporosis, that, you know what I'm saying. I can't pronounce that properly. But you can get that at a slightly slower rate while you continue to actively restrict and exercise. Being underweight is obviously relative. As I said, your optimal set point could be a BMI of 20, it could be 23, it could be 26, it could be higher, it could be lower. So even if you're at a BMI of, say, 20, which is apparently healthy, and obviously it is for some people, but if your optimal weight point is 26 and you're at a BMI of 20, you're very underweight for your body and you're still going to cause a huge amount of damage. If you also don't think that you are sick enough to rest and restore energy, thinking that kind of proves that you are sick enough. As soon as you question whether you're sick enough for something, I think that kind of proves that you are. Again, from your Utopia, if an energy deficit exists in the body thanks to a period of restrictive eating or under-eating relative to excessive energy expenditure, then replenishing the energy of daily exertion on top of the basal metabolic requirements, which are suppressed, will take precedence over replenishing the overall energy deficit throughout all the cells in your body. Basically, your body is saying to itself, well, if she's going to drag me out for a run every morning, then there's no way I'm going to be trying to figure out how to reverse bone mineral density loss or repair the heart muscle, and I'll keep the biological function suppressed so that there's enough energy to handle the godforsaken run along with staying alive until tomorrow. Now, that's what I'm trying to say, is if you're exercising whilst you're in your recovery, you're not going to have enough energy to make those necessary repairs, and instead, it's just going to try and keep you alive. So it's hugely important that you reach your minimums and that you do not exercise, because it's not good. You won't repair properly. So don't be in any kind of quasi, please. Please try and fully recover, because that's what you want to do. That's why you chose recovery. It's hard. It's anxiety producing. But if you're completely comfortable with the way that you are doing recovery, then your eating disorder is probably comfortable as well, which means you're not actually going any further towards recovery. But sorry this video was so long. And if I didn't make sense anywhere, please let me know. I'm a bit under the weather at the moment, not thinking as straight as I usually would. So if there's any parts that you don't understand, obviously send me a message or leave me a comment, and I'll answer anything that you have to ask. So yes, I am going off to university now. Have to walk there and I'm exhausted because I think I'm pretty ill. But it's necessary. So yes, keep on recovering, keep positive, and make sure you are not in any form of quasi recovery.